The word I got a word for y'all today. I needed a rude awakening for God to get my attention. It's too expensive to keep falling down like this. That was the only time God could get a hold of me. Oh my gosh. Was God not speaking to you, or were you not listening? I know people be looking at me like I'm crazy. Hey fans, we're back with another word, and I feel a little bit better today. I'm not gonna lie. I spent the whole day in bed, which it's just so boring. It is very difficult for me to sit still. I really struggle with that. I'm not like a movie person. I'll read a book, but for me to like lay in bed and watch movies is very difficult. So I've just been trying to sleep it off, and it's been working. It's been really working, okay? I've been praying a lot. I've been sleeping a lot. I've been vibing by myself, but I slept most of the day today, and then I got up around the time I had to go get my son from school, and I feel a lot better than I did yesterday. So I did get dressed. I did get cleaned up. I did clean my space a little bit, and we're back, okay? I feel a lot better. I still got the sniffles, but I did take a COVID test too, and I was negative, thank God, because the thought of being out of that gym for another week, ooh-wee. Anyway, I have a word for y'all today. I got a word for y'all today. Okay. Today's word is stop and pay attention. Stop and pay attention. Today's word stemmed from a verse that I read, or that I came across in the 1 Kings 19 verse 11 through 12. I'm reading from the NLT version of the note-taking Bible from Hosanna Revival. It will always be linked in the description. It has the cute little note-taking section there on the side like that. So 1 Kings 19 verse 11 through 12, it says, "Go out and stand before me on the mountain," the Lord told him. And as Elijah stood there, the Lord passed by, and a mighty windstorm hit the mountain. It was such a terrible blast that the rocks were torn loose, but the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, there was a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, there was the sound of a gentle whisper. Let me run it back per usual. "Go out and stand before me on the mountain," the Lord told him. And as Elijah stood there, the Lord passed by, and a mighty windstorm hit the mountain. It was such a terrible blast that the rocks were torn loose, but the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, there was a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, there was the sound of a gentle whisper. Now I'm going to read you guys what I wrote in the notes, in the little note section on the side there. I said, God does not always come through huge storms and grand entrances. Oftentimes, God will come to us in the softest whisper. If we are too distracted, we can miss it. Has God never spoken to you, or have you overlooked him? It's like I'll be calling my own self out in the note section. I'll be writing little notes after I read a passage or a scripture, and there'll be like questions. Like I'll question myself on certain things. Like, Chelsea, all that time you sat around telling yourself you ain't never heard from God. Have you never heard from God, or have you always overlooked him? Because you spent your whole life searching high and low, searching for earthquakes and windstorms and freaking fires and miracles. Not that God don't perform miracles still. Don't do that. But you were searching for him in all of these high places and all of these miraculous things, when really he was trying to reach you in such a soft whisper, and you could not hear him because you were so daggone distracted. It was too loud. Ooh-wee. As always, I will give the disclaimer, because every single verse in this Bible has so much meaning and depth to it that obviously I could make a billion different words off of just one scripture, right? So I'm not ever trying to act like this is what everybody needs to take from this one verse, or this is the only thing that this verse means. Definitely not. But the thought that stemmed in my mind as soon as I read this was how long I spent I don't understand why my little phone mount thing don't work, because it was too expensive to keep falling down like this. Like, what is going on? Anyway, the thought that stemmed in my mind as soon as I read this verse was thinking about how long I spent convincing myself that I had never heard from God. I would say, oh my gosh, everybody around me keeps talking about God and how close of a relationship that they have with him and how God helps them, or how God, and I always felt like God was never there. I'm like, I've never heard from God. God has never protected me. God has never saved me. Like, why would I want to go to church, or why would I want to read the Bible if God has never been there? I've never heard from God ever. And it's so crazy to me because I was always looking for God through earthquakes. I was always looking for God through the fires, all of these surreal, supernatural, miraculous type of huge things, huge encounters. And nowadays, I hear from God every single day in such a small, gentle whisper, and I was missing it. It wasn't that I had never heard from God. I had heard from God just as much as I do now. I just couldn't hear him. I was too distracted. I hear from God so much now, not because he talks to me more than he did when I was growing up, or more than he did when I was in full-blown depression, or more than he did back in the day. No, I hear from him so much now because I'm paying attention. It's not that I didn't hear from him. It's that I was not paying any attention. And even when I was paying attention, I was so distracted by all of the outside things that I couldn't hear. I couldn't hear over the music and the negative thoughts and the bad friendships and the relationships that I was not supposed to ever be in. And all the toxicity around me, I couldn't hear him. It was too loud. And when God comes through a really gentle whisper and you got all this stuff playing in your head and your mind and your ear, you're not going to be able to hear him, love. And the wildest thing is, when I got any type of earthquake or fires in my life, I would view that as punishment, when really that was the only time God could get a hold of me. Oh my gosh. All the times I sat around complaining and crying that all of these things kept happening to me, when in reality, that was the only way God could reach me, because there were so many distractions in my life all the time, every single day, that I couldn't hear the whisper. I couldn't hear the little phone call. I couldn't hear the little knock at the door. I needed an earthquake. I needed a rude awakening for God to get my attention. Oh my gosh. And how intentional God is. God speaks to me in such tiny details that if I'm not paying attention, I'm gonna miss it every single time. I hear from God so much now because I pay so much attention now. When I tell you, oh my gosh, it's like in every single detail of everything. I can hear God speaking to me through music, through lyrics, through other people. God has spoken to me through my son. That was a wild experience. That was a pretty recent one. God speaks to me all the time through the people that I'm aligned with, my friendships, my relationships. So the man that he connected me with, that's a wild experience as well. But I don't just hear from God through prayer. I hear from God through numbers, through music, through butterfly. Like there are so many different little God winks that I hear and I see and I experience on a daily basis. And they're so small that you will miss it if you're not paying attention. If you don't stop and pay attention, if you are constantly distracted by all of these worldly things, you're always trying to figure it out. You're always so stressed out and overwhelmed and overstimulated. You're always multitasking. You don't ever take a second to just stop and take a breath and prioritize time by yourself so God can speak to you, so that you can speak to you. You cannot even hear yourself think half the time because you are so overwhelmed with life. And then you expect to be able to hear from God. But what happens when God is trying to come to you through a gentle whisper? How the heck do you expect to hear from him? Now, I can't speak for everybody else's life. I can only speak for my own. And it's wild to me to be able to look back at my life and look at all the obstacles that I faced and all the times that I sat there facing these obstacles, crying like, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Why me? Why me? Why me? Why me? Why me? Yet the raw reality is those were the only times that I reached out to God. The only time that I reached out and I was seeking God was in times of trouble, was in times of earthquakes or fires or really bad things happening. And I was like, God, I really need you. God, I really need you. God, I really need you. If the only time that you reach out to God is when you need help, then why the heck are you crying and complaining every time he puts you in a situation where you need help? Now, again, I'm not speaking for you or anybody. I'm speaking for myself because I seek God every single day now. Not because I have to, but because I want to. I long to. It's my favorite time of day when I go sit there at the sunrise and I reach out to God and I seek God and I'm sitting there in God's presence. It's the most intimate, peaceful time. The raw question that I had for myself when I read this verse was, did God really start reaching out to you differently nowadays, or are you just paying more attention? Were you paying no attention at all before, and that's why you couldn't hear him? Was God not speaking to you, or were you not listening? Were you looking in all the wrong places trying to find God when really the entire time God was surrounding you every single day, all the time? Oh my gosh. Wild to me how much more I've been able to hear from God and experience God and grow in my relationship with God now that I'm paying more attention, now that I'm prioritizing him, now that I'm not just trying to fit him into my busy routine and my busy schedule and my busy mind. Maybe I hear from God on a daily basis now because I prioritize God on a daily basis now. That's the word that I have for y'all today. So that completes day 8, y'all. We really on a roll with this. 8 days in a row for me is big because I ain't want to do no YouTube now. Y'all know that. So for me to be on here 8 days in a row, I gotta, come on. Good job, Chelsea. You're doing it, baby. You're doing it. I'm going to see you guys tomorrow with another word as I complete my October challenge. If you do not have me on TikTok, make sure you guys go follow me on TikTok. I will be live tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. All right, bye, friends.